Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks a ton for taking the time to check out this new player guide for Octopath Traveler Champions of the Continent. So, what is the game? The game is essentially a console RPG that's been optimized for mobile. It's a full story with a huge roster of characters, and it's set in the same world as the original Octopath Traveler game in the world of Orstera. It's got the beautiful HD2 graphics that we've all come to know and love. It's got a storyline that's ever expanding through updates. But the biggest difference is, in what's controversial in the community, is that it incorporates a gacha element that most mobile RPG games have, especially from Square Enix. But don't let that deter you. The game is still incredible. It's completely free to play. At the end of the day, it is your story with the characters that you want and how you want to build them. Alright, so let's get into the story. What's the game about? So you are the chosen one of a divine ring, and you want to rise against the great evils of Orstera. At the beginning of the game, there are 3 paths that you can choose from the start. The paths are wealth, fame, and power. You get to choose which path that you want to start with first, but you can always switch to one of the other paths whenever you want. There's various chapters with each of these paths, and what I would recommend when you start is, if you were to start with wealth, for instance, just go through the first chapter, you'll know when it ends, and then just bounce over to fame chapter 1, and then when that ends, go over to power chapter 1. Alright, so let's get into the gacha element of the game. The gacha system is essentially the same as every other gachas that are in mobile games. In this game, the currency is called rubies, and you earn rubies from completing quests, daily logins, the daily and weekly quest rewards, gifts from Square Enix, and there are just a ton of ways to earn rubies. And the game is a little bit in the sense that rubies can be difficult to come by in the long term, but you do earn enough to be able to play comfortably. And I just want to stress that the game is not pay to win. Like I said before, there's no guild battles or guild raids or anything like that. It's completely solo, and you can really beat all of the content in the game by playing for free and playing with whatever you get. You'll definitely be getting 5 stars. You'll obviously be getting 4 stars and 3 stars, but every character is unique, and there isn't really a situation where you'll need to pay. So for 300 rubies, you can do a 10 pull, and 30 rubies are for a single pull. There is a pity system in this, but I would highly discourage anyone from going all the way. You have to do 200 pulls, and you'll never have that much rubies in the bank, and don't drain your wallet. Ultimately it's not worth it. The game also provides tokens, which will provide usually a free single pull and sometimes a 10 pull, and they come by from time to time. The paid rubies, there are paid banners, but they're not really like that important. They do offer benefits, because obviously the game needs to make money, but ultimately it's up to you on whether you want to spend. Now, throughout the game's life cycle, there are limited characters and there are collabs in the game. In the future, there are definitely games that will collab with Champions of the Continent, and I'm just gonna put in the spoilers here real quick. There are the original Octopath Traveler characters in this game that will come over time. There's a Bravely Default banner and a Nier Automata banner, and there's definitely going to be more to come down the line. And there's also limited banners that pop up every few months or so. There are characters in this game, I'm not going to spoil, who will show up and you can be able to play, but typically they're going to be on the limited banners. So that's the gacha element. It's pretty standard. The game, again, I know I keep saying it, but it is not pay to win. You can definitely never spend a dime in this game and completely enjoy it. Alright, so let's get into some information about the Travelers. So the marketing for the game says that the game is going to launch with a 64 character roster, which is huge. That's really awesome, to be able to start out with. Your first Traveler, in the global beta, the game gave us one of the original 5-star Travelers in the first pull. Now, that's not the case in the JP version, so hopefully that carries over, and I'll create a video here soon on potentially who you might want to start out with, but I created a video that was an analysis of all the original 5-star Travelers, so go check that out to get a little bit more information on them. So right after the tutorial, you're going to go into one of the inns, and the barkeep is going to provide you with 3 more travelers. They're just 3 stars. They're pretty generic, but it's a good way, to get started with your journey. You're going to gain a ton of travelers by pulling on the gacha banners while you're playing throughout the game. I would recommend to try to get 8 at least as quick as you can before you start off with the game. We don't know what the game is going to provide us in terms of rubies at launch, but I have a feeling that launch bonuses, there's going to be enough rubies, and there's going to be some interesting banners to do a pull relatively quick within the game. In the global beta, there was Millard's banner, so I'm pretty sure there's going to be something like that as well once we start. Now, each traveler is completely unique. Each traveler has their own skills, their own passives. Some of them kind of merge into each other in terms of abilities, such as maybe sharing elements or sharing buffs and debuffs. But each character, provides its own tools, and each character has its own strengths and weaknesses. And I would just recommend, taking a look at each character that you pull and what their abilities and passives are. You never know. A lot of 4-star characters can really come in handy over 5-star characters in battles. So just take the time to look them all over and pick which ones will be best for the particular fight that you're in. Alright, so let's go over the different jobs that are in the game. So just like in the original game for the Switch, we've got 8 different classes, being the Warrior, Merchant, Thief, Apothecary, Scholar, Cleric, Dancer, and Hunters. One of the biggest differences in this game compared to the Switch are the weapon types. The big difference is that Scholars now have tombs and books, and Dancers now have fans. But for the rest of the jobs, they still have the same weapons. So Warriors have swords, Merchants have spears or pole arms, Apothecaries have axes, and so forth. And each character is assigned one job, and they have to use the weapon or equip the weapon that their job is specified for. However, in the future, there are characters that come in, like for instance, there's a warrior who comes later on in the game who can also use spear abilities. But they still equip a sword. So there is some, vary to the jobs, but they're pretty much the same. And to give you just like a brief overview for newcomers on what makes the jobs different, and let me just stress that this isn't the case for everybody, but they're kind of common themes, such as Thieves using debuffs, Apothecaries having regen and Isuna, Dancers kind of being buffers and debuffers, and so forth. And one thing I also want to mention too is that Apothecaries and Clerics are the healers, and everybody else is DPS, with some of the other jobs each having their own buffs and debuffs. So the jobs are pretty much the same, but each one is specific to each character, and each character only has one job for now. Alright, so let's talk about the different job skills and the character skill boards. So every time you gain a level, the character will also gain a job point, and job points are used to unlock skills and passives on characters' respective boards. On their character boards as well, job points will unlock different things like plus 20 skill points or plus 20 HP, plus 10 attack, plus 10 magic attack, and so on. So the job boards are really important to fill out once you start gaining those job points. Each character has their own board, and it unlocks their different skills and their different passives. So the boards are there to, when you gain levels, you do have your attributes raised, but the boards are really what builds characters. Sometimes you'll notice that characters have boards that are locked. Well, it's one of my least favorite part of the game, but sometimes you'll pull a 5-star character, but you pull them as a 4.5, which is what the community calls it. And what that means is the character can go all the way up and be a 5-star, but you pulled them as a 4-star. And so one of the like for example, you could pull Theo, who's one of the original 5-star travelers, but you pulled him as a 4.5. You can get him up to his 5-star status, but you either have to pull him as a 5-star, or you can unlock that last board to make him 5 out of 5 using a job coin. The biggest downside is that job coins are very rare, or they're difficult to get by using items. However, just know that option is always there for you. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was characters that you pull as a 5-star can go all the way up to level 80, 4 stars go all the way up to level 60, 3 stars go all the way up to level 40. And you can still level your characters past those limits, but you'll have to use either the character's guide stones, or if they're eligible to go up to the next star level, then you'll have to unlock it, using the tricky way. So definitely, as you're gaining levels and accumulating job points, make sure that you're unlocking all these different areas on the board, because they're only going to make your characters better, and really it's necessary to be able to move forward with content. So if you play the original game, then you're definitely familiar with path actions, and they're back in this game. So the 3 that are in this game are Inquire, Entreat, and Hire. Each of the path actions use your influence level for wealth, power, and fame to determine the probability and success of being able to complete and be successful with that path action. So your fame influence level is going to determine the Inquire path action, wealth influence is going to cover Entreat, and power influence level will cover Hire. So as you can see in this video, I used my power influence, and what we're doing is we're finding these guys, and then we're going to essentially get all of the items that were highlighted into our inventory. Your influence level is going to be raised in a variety of different ways, such as completing quests, when you pull characters depending on which they align with. And that's just because there's so many different ways to raise that level. Alright, so lastly, just talking about some of the different common items and gear in the game. So for weapons and armor, they're found in the weapon shops that you can find in each town. Weapons and armor are automatically built from materials you have when you speak to the shopkeep. You gather the materials from completing battles, and to be honest, there is a bit of farming involved to fully deck out your party. Accessories can be found in the world and are also obtained from quest rewards, and in the future characters will have their own accessories unlocked when they are fully awakened, but that's going to come probably to the future in the game. We don't expect that to be there at launch. Leaves are the in-game currency to buy items and spend, to stay overnight at the inn. Experience nuts are really important because they provide experience points and are a really easy way to gain levels. And lastly, there are guide stones. You're going to gain bronze, silver, and gold guide stones while you're playing the game, and they're super important, and I'll create a different video on that because it's a little bit more complex. Alright, so there you have it. This was my new player guide for Octopath Traveler Champions of the Continent, and again, it releases on July 27th, 2022, and is available now for pre-order for both Google Play and iOS. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to comment them below, and I'll do my best to answer whatever I can. Please subscribe, like, and share this video if you could. I'll definitely be creating more content as the game goes on, character guides and previewing content that's coming up, more guides on some of the complex stuff that's coming in the future. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon in Ostera.